like how we talk about in every aspect, reaching forward and reaching back, we should definitely be reaching back. And I will definitely take on that personal challenge because I can tell you that that's been a blind spot. And what you're saying, it's before it happens, right? Preventative, not reactive.
We should be creating soldiers, not survivors.
Period. My name is Marquetta. Hello, She Search Sheroes community. We are so excited today to have with us Dr. D of Glass Soldier, and we are going to hear all about her organization as well as her military journey. So we just want to say hello, Dr. D. How are you today?
Hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us. I like to ask everyone the same question and start all the way from the beginning before we get into what you're doing today and who you are today. How did you end up in the military? What made you sign the dotted line? And how was that journey for you?
Okay, so many, many moons ago, actually, my first husband was in the military, kind of right out of high school. He joined the military. So I kind of started my journey as a military spouse.
Okay.
Um, in um, and so my introduction into the military was pre 9/11. And then 9/11 happened, and I found myself over in Germany. And prior to just disclaimer, there's domestic violence in my first marriage. And so I found myself in this situation as a spouse, a mother of three, trying to advocate for myself, navigate this new family that I had while our country was going through all of this turmoil, in another country that I didn't speak the language. And so my first introduction into military life was really through the FRG program.
Okay.
And so that was my safe haven and my place to go to help other people, because I really didn't feel like I could help myself. I had this um, very strong trauma bond to my first husband.
Hmm.
And so fast forward, I come back to the US. I get to his next duty station in Arizona. And that is kind of where I hit my wall, was like, I can't take it anymore. I was serving on the FRG at the time, and his commander had taken notice of everything that I was doing with helping women, the spouses, and things like that. And so he came to me one day and was like, "You make a great officer." And I laughed in his face and was like, "You're crazy." But so, at that time I had enrolled I was getting my associate's degree in criminal justice
Okay.
because I was like, I'm gonna be a lawyer. That's what I'm gonna do. And while I was in school, he, sent me away to camp. My first exposure to ROTC.
Okay.
So I went through the program, came back, got a scholarship to George Washington University in DC. Now, at this time, I'm almost 30 years old.
Which you look
So
like you're 18 right now. When you said that you were in Germany with three kids, first husband, I'm like, where?
father time is chasing me. I'll tell people later how I run away from father time.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I was almost 30 years old. So here I am ready to pack up and leave him. And I'm like, I'm going to start my own life. I fell in love with my military community, despite the fact that I could not get help for myself. These were my family. And I thought I came to understand this environment. I thought I knew everything I could from being inside as a spouse. And so, yeah, I signed a dotted line at George Washington University. Unfortunately, GW was like, "You're almost 31, so we can't contract you." So I wind up changing and going to Bowie State University, and that's where I commissioned in 2011. So I'm an HBCU grad. Um, I was still going to be a lawyer. I
Okay.
was dead set on being a lawyer when I went to ROTC. However, Uncle Sam was like, "No, you're going to branch transportation corps." I was like, "What is that? I don't even what's the transportation officer?" That wasn't even on my radar.
Wow.
I was everything else. I was JAG. I was MP.
Right.
Anything that had to do with law enforcement or even medical. But I was like, transportation. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But nonetheless, 2011, I commissioned into as an 88 Alpha into the Transportation Corps. So
Wow. Okay. So you started out as a spouse, and I just want to go back to one thing before we move forward. You mentioned your work with FRG. If you could just explain that for those, in the military, we're very acronym heavy. And just for anyone that may be watching, if you could just break that down a little bit more.
so the FRG stood for Family Readiness Group. And that was pretty much, I mean, back then it was considered a gossip group of spouses who just wanted to flex their rank, their spouse's rank. But I happen to have some really good women around me and mentors, and it never felt like that to me.
Okay.
We made sure that it wasn't. I was strictly there to help women. And considering what, in Germany, just experiencing one of the spouses, again, just trigger warning, speaking about violence and things like that. My time over in Germany was really like the catalyst for me in helping women, because we had a spouse who completed suicide. And it was just the lack of resources and help
Mm,
and support. And I took that deeply personal. And
yeah.
so my introduction into the family readiness group was just that. I really want to be able to help spouses.
Got it. Thank you for that. And so now, once you've graduated college and you're actually starting your military career, you've completely left the first husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I left him like, so they wouldn't allow me to commission as a single parent. So technically, again, Uncle Sam was like, nah, you gotta stay married to this joker until after. But the ink was not dry on
Got
my papers in May before I was like, I'm out.
it. Okay. And so how long did you serve?
So I commissioned 2011, and November 23rd was my last day in the military. November 23rd, 2016. Sorry,
Okay.
5 years
Uh-huh.
technically. I was in the reserves while I was in ROTC,
Okay.
but they do that whole calculation, how much time. I think it came out to be like 6 years and 3 months or something like that.
Okay, got it. So transportation, how did that end up going? It wasn't the vision.
No, not at all. Because I was like, what does a transportation officer? I literally had to like try to figure out what that even meant. And they were like, "Oh, planes, trains, and automobiles." Oh, what? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I pretty much came in. I think what was interesting about me going in at such an older age was that there was just an assumption from my leadership that my life experience translated into tactical experience. And so I didn't have a lot of mentorship, like at
Mm,
because they just assume that because I'm over 30 and I'm a mother, that I can navigate this new role that I'm in. And let me tell you something, it was not like running the family readiness group.
mm,
No- Nothing like it.
got it. So what was it like? And did you spend any time? Did you have to deploy or anything like that?
So no, you know, I'll say unfortunately, and at the same time, like I always tell people, bitter and sweet can't flow from the same fountain, right? But what transpired for me again was just the momentum. I found my calling in what happened to me. So
Okay.
unfortunately for me, I was sexually assaulted within 90 days of getting to my first duty station. So I got to Fort Stewart in Georgia in December of 2011. January 2012, I was assaulted. And so my entire career was just overshadowed by this one event, this one person's decision to do the wrong thing. And so, yeah, getting to my unit and having that happen within like, I mean, I'm still in processing,
Right.
basically. I didn't have an assignment, and because of what happened, they didn't know what to do with me. This was right around the time they were experimenting with expedited transfers. So it was a mess at my first duty station in Georgia. I remember getting my first um, OER or officer evaluation. To make sure. I tell you, my first evaluation was my time in Georgia so that I could be expedited and transferred to Texas. And it was, man, I look back on it, I was like, this looks like something they Googled. It was horrible
Oh no.
because I did nothing. I literally showed up to work every day and sat in the office most of the time.
So then thank you for sharing your story and your transparency. But so you did report
I
what?
did. At first, I did. I was unrestricted. Restricted was, me going forward and saying something bad happened to me, but I didn't want an investigation. At that time, this person outranked me by two, almost three ranks. And so there was a lot of fear coming forward. So I just initially filed a restricted report. And as time went on, the behavior and the things got worse. So I wind up unrestricting the report. And that's when they transferred me to
Okay,
Texas.
got it. So, I mean, that's a horrific welcome entry to the military. I know that we will talk more about that, and that's a lot of your work. Um, but how did that affect, the rest of your military experience? The fact that this is what you came into.
Well, I think the good thing is that, my ex-husband's commander became one of like my best friends, him and his wife, which is funny because I credit them being together to me because I introduced them at the
Oh,
FRDC.
wow.
They're still married today.
Good.
And I think they got like 100 kids.
Oh,
But he was just a huge mentor and advocate for me. So he's one of the very few people that I called up and was like, hey, this is what happened to me. And he kind of guided me through this. Um, I have to say it, this is, obviously not the case for a lot of people, but I just happen to have an incredible support system.
okay.
And so, one of the things that my cousin who retired a couple of years ago, she was retired a full bird colonel. I can't remember what her rank was at the time. I think she was a major at the time. She they made sure that they wanted me to understand that every unit is not like this. That this is not the end all be all. And I was like, I'm gonna fight my way through this. And so, getting transferred to Texas meant a new start for me, a new start for my children.
Mm,
Uh, and that's kind of how I attempted to navigate what was going on.
got it. Thank you again for sharing that. And I'm going to let you get into the numbers, but the female, I was recently on a podcast as well, talking to some male veterans, and we're still at the point that when you share these numbers or you share experiences, it's still like, what? And it's like, this is a crisis
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
military. And, it's just baffling to me that it's still news and new instead of like us all hands on deck trying to come up with solutions.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So, well, you were in for 5 years, and then did you stay in Texas when you got out?
I did. So Texas was like my only duty station after that.
Mhm.
My first unit that I got to when I got transferred to Texas was an engineer. So
Okay.
again, I'm like, transportation. I don't know anything about the engineers. What do y'all do? What do you mean, engineer? So I'm learning all of these things as I'm, being thrusted. And then also everything that was happening and going on. And I, again, just I guess the short of it was my trial took 2 years. So the
Mm,
first 2 years of my career, I was going back and forth to Georgia. I was being called out for meetings, and yeah, it was just a mess. But my time at the engineers, hands down, the best experience I had as a leader, and my time in uniform.
okay. And you also, at some point, were decided to further your education as well.
Yes, but that didn't come until after I got out.
Okay. So how did we end up ending your military career?
So I wind up going to trial. This young man wind up getting 5 years. Had to register as a sex offender. And then for some reason, my body had been in survival mode for so long, homeostasis was not normal for me. And when I attempted to create some type of normalcy after that happened, I started to have reactions. The PTSD kicked in.
Mm,
Um, my efforts to get help and seek help for it, unlike today, was just met with toxic leadership. It was met with retaliation to the point that, my leadership was willing to send me emails and counsel me for conduct unbecoming of an officer. And so that kind of just pushed me towards maybe I need to get out. I mean, I was hearing it on a regular basis that the Army doesn't have a place for, you. You can't advocate. The more, the louder I got about what was going on and other people being assaulted, the worse it got for me.
yeah.
So, from the time I had my first panic attack to the time I signed being a forever soldier was a year, almost a year.
Mm,
They wasted no time.
wow.
And so I was med boarded, pretty much forced to take a
Wow.
knee.
And so what did you do once you got out of the service?
So the the lovely part of the beginning of this journey that I've been on was that it took me hitting rock bottom for me to get here.
Mm,
Uh, November 22nd, 2016, as I was finalizing out, I was suicidal. I was walking through the hospital, and I saw one of my leaders that like just made my life hell while I was in. And out loud, I said, "I'm going to kill her, and I'm going to kill myself."
mm, mm,
In a hospital on Fort Hood, Texas. Not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. And so they restrained me and took me to the hospital. And a series of events happened with my leadership and my husband at the time. But a social worker came in and she gave me an option. And she sat down next to me on that bed after listening to my sordid story of my 5 year career. And she said, "I don't think this is the end for you." And she said, "I don't, it's almost Thanksgiving. I don't want to take you upstairs." She said, "So I want to give you a choice." She's like, "I can have them take you upstairs and you'll spend Thanksgiving and probably a couple of days there. Or you and I can sit here and have a conversation and you go out and you do good things
mm,
because I don't think this is the end for you." That social worker saved my life.
mm.
And I enrolled in the social work program at University of Texas Arlington like 2 weeks later.
Wow. And I'm blown away. I just thank you again for your transparency, as well as for saying that there are triggers. There again, anyone that may be listening to this right now, um, can possibly identify with what you're saying. And it's, not only is there so much assault and so much that women face in the military, minority women, and then it's like you're beat up more. There, a lot of people don't report because of exactly what you're saying. You're oftentimes, or in the experiences that I've heard and dealt with personally, no one is saying, this was so great, that's so good of you. you're actually, humiliated, felt less than, told that, you know what you signed up for, or if you can't handle things, all of these things that are just completely unacceptable. So just thank you for just sharing as you're going through. So you speak with a social worker. She does not take you upstairs, and you decide immediately, the way that she just saved my life, this is the work. Because I mean, you've already done work with spouses. And so you kind of knew immediately that this is the work that you wanted. So you decided transportation was not your life dream.
No, I was not. I did not want to go for work for the Brown group. I did not want to go work for those people. It was logistics was not in my future at all. I wanted to wrangle people in a different way.
Yes. Okay. So you went back to school
Yes.
and
Um, before I say that, I want to just
okay.
say when you made a really good point earlier about as women of color, not not in a and again, each one of these women, I think, in their own way, probably paid for what they did. But I want to point out that all three of the people that made my life hell were women of color.
Mm,
I was so disappointed and even more upset that it was coming from women that looked like me.
mm. Wow.
All three of them. None of them are in the military any longer. And I'm grateful for that. Um, and my hope and my, in the forgiveness and the work that I've done is that since they've been out, they've done the hard work to atone for what they did because I fully believe that they knew and probably have done some reflective work. That's my hope anyway,
Yeah.
that they've done. But it was just incredibly disappointing to see this coming from women of color
Mm, yeah.
um, that aided in everything else that was going on. So just I wanted to say that just so that people understand my time in um I had some incredible people that supported me. And on the other hand, I had to combat that with the ones that were trying to undo it. There are a lot of people that have gone through their entire careers and they've had a great experience. And I love that for them. Um, mine wasn't that wasn't my lived experience. I've
Mm,
had some great people, but I've also had some really awful people. And that one thing sticks out to me because it's just so important moving forward now, especially today in 2024, when we talk about women of color and us uplifting each other and having platforms like this. I would have given anything to have a platform like this
mm,
in 2014, 2012.
mm.
Anything.
Thank you. And I totally understand as well. And, again, it's really about sharing knowledge. I would hope that even women that are on the other side, which are what you're talking about, of what you experience, can sit in themselves and from seeing something like this and be able to reflect on actions and maybe start that hard work that you talked about. So while we're also amplifying and sharing stories, I hope that we are challenging as well.
Oh yeah, I do. Every time I challenge Black women to just when you want to say something negative about another woman, when you don't want to mentor or you show up to work and it's self-centered, to just check in with yourself. Um, because you never know the impact that you're going to have on somebody's life. So, just like that social worker sat next to me and had a profound impact in a
Mhm.
positive way, you can obviously undo that and do the opposite. So, say that to, yeah, December came around and I was like, put me in, coach. I want to be a social worker. Like,
Okay.
I felt this pull from God, just like, this is your assignment. And so January 2017, I started at UTA in the social work program. And yeah, it was a train moving.
So tell us about that train and how did Glass Soldier start?
So interestingly enough, when I was sitting in the waiting room during my trial by myself. I was secluded. I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody else during the trial. And as I was sitting there, I was just having this moment again, God, just like, what am I going to do? What am I supposed to do with this now that this thing has happened to me? And the idea of it came to me, but I was like, I can't do that right now. I'm still in uniform. I was definitely being disobedient because I was like, I can't do that right now. And so I just put it off for a long time. The premise of Glass Soldier came because I was constantly told that I was broken, constantly from my leadership. You're broken. You're broken. Army doesn't need broken soldiers like you.
Mm,
And so this idea about glass
wow.
and Glass Soldier came to me just off the hearing that all the time. But I'm just reminded that glass is so many other things aside from broken. It's sharp, it's beautiful, it's transparent. And, you know, under the right circumstances, it also can be unbroken or unbreakable. Unbreakable. I'm making up.
Okay.
My point is that that's kind of where it happened. And so um as I was finishing up my 2020, finishing up my last semester in my master's program, that's when I decided to start the nonprofit.
Okay.
Yeah, when we were
And
early on in the pandemic.
excuse me?
When we were early in the pandemic, when we were still calling
Okay.
it the coronavirus and we didn't know what it was, I was like, yeah, we'll be fine. It's only going to last for a couple of months.
Got you. So another thing that I like to ask for entrepreneurs as we go into what Glass Soldier is, when you say you started it, did you use any resources along the way that helped you launch your business?
No, I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. No, no. I know nothing about running a nonprofit. I've never sat on the board. I did all of the wrong things to start a nonprofit. Let me just tell you that. What I had was passion. What I had was knowledge. What I had was this drive.
Okay.
Those three things. That is not enough to run a nonprofit. Let me just be the first person, again, in the interest of being transparent, be better than Dr. D. Don't do what Dr. D did.
Okay.
Yeah, I started it in, like I said, we were like the pandemic was kind of just, we were still at home. I think it was like March of like 2020 or something when
Okay.
they shut the world down. And I was like, great, Zoom, awesome. We'll start it online. And I started off really, just having a group of friends and people, including my mentor who got me in the military, on my advisory board. Um, Glass Soldier started off with the intention of developing a way for service members to report sexual assault, sexual harassment outside of their chain of command. For me,
Mm,
I wanted them to have this ability. Now, this is prior to Vanessa Guillen's murder on Fort Hood, Texas, and the legislation and where we are today. That's where Glass Soldier started off as. It was strictly technology based and just giving soldiers or service members an opportunity to record their stories.
okay. So, and how has that been going?
I have abandoned ship
Okay.
with the technology. It's still there. It's kind of like a little hum in the background because we're not there yet in terms of reporting outside of the DoD. And so I got a lot of pushback with that. Um, and so it has blossomed into me doing a lot of psychoeducation and just helping, just being that voice, letting people have safe spaces to come in and talk about it and getting them the resources they need outside the DoD. So maybe a service member can't report to a local police department, they can. But in terms of the reporting aspect, I've kind of allowed that to just play out on the federal level, still advocating for it. But Glass Soldier is more of a resource to service members now, utilizing my story to help the voiceless.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and what you said you have on a hum, that sounds like, policy bills, a lot of changes there. but necessary change. So we definitely want to again spread and amplify this voice, so that we can impact change. Again, that's what the main purpose of this platform is to amplify our journeys and stories so that we can create change of, the woman experience in the military. I mean, just even in healthcare, there are just so many differentiations. Now I'm making up words. There's just a lot of differentiation. I'm not going to try. There's all these differences that we face that are different than our male counterparts. It was obviously healthcare made for the male military members, period. And women will figure it out. So we have to absolutely challenge change. So in that, how one can we support as a community, and anyone that may be hearing this, what can they do to affect change, impact action, and overall just to support Glass Soldier, first of all, and then before we go into how someone would reach out to you, how can we support Glass Soldier and what you're doing?
So one, the monthly webinars, I would love to see an increase. I mean, I've kept it to about 10 because, just my work as a clinician, as a therapist, anything larger than 10 in the dynamics and the milieu of the room kind of changes. So I try to keep it to 10. We've opened it up to 25, but again, I feel like that's still too big. But I would love to see an increase more in people coming to our safe space webinars. I design my webinars around food because that's my love language. I
Okay.
feel like food is just one of those things that bring people together. So I love the idea of combining food with our webinars. Last year we did just amazing. We had such an amazing time. We did like tacos of trauma, and we did ice cream, you scream, where we talked about PTSD awareness. But we gave out gift cards to ice cream, to like Baskin Robbins, I think it was. Um, and this year we're going to do the same thing. So we kind of just center this every month having a different theme. For February, we're talking about heart health, because that's kind of the national awareness. Everybody thinks of love and the heart, but we're talking about the connection between our mental health and our heart health. And I
Mm,
really want to give people the resources. So, one, spreading the word about the webinars and having more women veterans come in. The other thing is, as always with any nonprofit, we need money in order to be able to affect change. So, um, our next initiative is being able to team up with BetterHelp to help our active duty because the DoD is overrun with embedded mental health, and there are so many service members that cannot get appointments. Despite the fact that the Brandon Act has been on the books since last year, there are service members that reach out on a regular basis and they're like, I can't get an appointment for 3 months. And so our goal is to team up with BetterHelp to be able to, at the minimum, give away 4 sessions to service members until they can get in, whether that's like a bi-weekly or a month worth of services. So donating so that we can get those certificates to them. And then this year, for the first time, we are going to do a retreat.
awesome.
Yeah. So my lived experience with retreats has been awful. My anxiety has shown up every time. And what I've experienced from working with larger groups is that you're just kind of a number. Doesn't really matter to them that you don't come or why. But for me, I want the personal connection because when someone who's been through trauma cannot get past that social anxiety or the idea that they're going to be forced to talk about what happened to them, and they're like, never mind, I changed my mind, I don't want to come. I want to change that dynamic for them. I want this to feel personal. I want them to know that they're wanted, and this is not about them reliving their experience more than it is about them healing from it.
Absolutely. So how do we get information about the webinar?
So pretty much our social media, because every month we do it on Eventbrite. So every month the link is going to change. But every month we put it out on the first. I think I actually posted it yesterday for February. But we'll put it out at the beginning of the month, but it's every fourth Thursday. at 7 p.m. So that doesn't change every fourth Thursday at 7 p.m. It'll be on Eventbrite. They can look up Glass Soldier on Eventbrite.
Glass
Um,
Soldier on Eventbrite.
Definitely go to our website, glasssoldier.org, where you'll see a lot of our information, including our podcast. I'm so grateful for podcasts like this, and having this platform, but also, listening to our podcast.
Yeah.
We call it the Payday Podcast because it comes out on the 1st and 15th. So
I love that.
every time you get paid, go ahead and download that new episode.
Got you. That is awesome. And then also you mentioned that you're going to do a retreat this year. We'd love to hear more about that.
The great thing is on Thursday, I'm teaming up with a young lady who used to work for Wounded Warrior.
Okay.
So she used to do these retreats. And so I am excited to work with her. I'm going to be meeting with her on Thursday here in Baltimore, to pretty much put that together. It's going to be in the fall, my favorite time of the year.
Okay.
The weather is just perfect and all the colors. I'm a winter baby, so I kind of like a mix between cold and hot.
Okay.
But yes, we are going to do it in the fall, and I just stay tuned. We are having our first gala here in April during Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So by then, we'll reveal the details of the retreat and everything. So I'm excited.
Awesome. That is very exciting, and we're very happy for you and the work that you are doing. Is there something that you can tell us, either numbers, statistics, or whatever, about the crisis with sexual assault in the military?
The statistics have pretty much remained the same, in terms of women being assaulted, 1 in 4, right? And it's in
Reported.
our reported, 1 in 4 reported. Um, what is interesting is the number of, um, the DoD now releasing statistics as it pertains to race. If you go back and look at all of the prior DoD statistics, they've never released anything about race as far as assaults. That was one of our first initiatives at Glass Soldier, is we were pressuring the DoD. You need to release all the information because we need to know who is being assaulted, not just age demographic. Um, and the reason why I point that out is because it's important,
Yeah.
to understand, because they tend to react to what the statistics. And for me, as someone who's going to school and understands surveys, if you ask certain questions, you're going to get the answers you want. So to me, the DoD has not changed. Their survey, the workplace violence survey, I haven't seen them change it. They ask the same questions. And so demographically, you're going to get the same answers. Also, who's filling out these surveys and who are the ones that are being reported? For me, I want the data to speak for itself. But I will say I just don't buy into it's only, white women under the age of 24 that's being assaulted in the military, especially when, statistically Black women hold a lot of the enlisted ranks, um, especially after 9/11. So I will say that I'm not buying into that the gap between these two demographic of women being assaulted into military is that far apart.
And
Um,
that's what we're seeing now from the most recent report that's breaking down race, is we're showing that the highest group is
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Um, and it's just one of those believe Black women type of things.
Mm,
And how many times have we come forward and we're not believed, or don't come forward because, one of the things that I talk about all the time when I go to my speaking engagements, why are people joining? If you understand, like in this economy, that, there are unhoused individuals that are joining, that people are joining because they have nowhere else to go. Um, I asked this question in the last couple of sessions. I have asked this question, and it amazes me that there are some people that are brave enough to raise their hand and say, I was unhoused, or homeless, or my parents forced me to leave the house when I turned 18. You understand why people are joining, then you understand why they may not come forward. when something horrible happens to them. Because now you're about to mess up my livelihood and my ability to take care of myself.
Mm,
And the compensation that these survivors get from the government at being 100% disabled is not enough for them to live on. So I'm not about to mess that up. So, um, in the spirit of me being the spicy individual and the compassionate person I am about this demographic of people, I challenge any of those leaders that say that people have been assaulted and stay in and have done really well. Okay, that may be true, but why they stayed in or why they picked themselves up by the bootstraps and decided to do 20 years may not just be because they're strong individuals or very resilient individuals.
yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. That it's the whole mindset that has to be shifted, and there's so much work to be done. Again, why I'm saying, what can we do as a minority woman community to bring more awareness? Because, right now, where you're challenging the DOD, right now, like with ourselves, with She Serves Sheroes, the work that we're doing is mostly amplifying. But what are the steps? What should we be doing to make your voice louder and each one of our voices louder? And I think that we should know some statistical information, but how do we battle for equality?
I think I, I would really like to see Black women mentor more. I would really like to see an increase. I mean, we have programs within the military, and unfortunately, the DEI is under attack, right? The more we try to make something inclusive, the more we try to make something exclusive for, to target a specific demographic of people, the more likely it's going to be attacked, right? So having something specifically for Black women is probably not going to go over well within the DoD, but what can we do outside of it? Platforms like yourself, like myself, really pulling in our active duty while they're still in to mentor these young women. I will say I have within the ROTC space, right? Just the ROTC, people join the military from all walks of life, but getting the mentorship prior to them going in the military, I think is just critical for them to understand healthy relationships, not just romantic relationships to prevent the assault, but healthy relationships in terms of this dynamic and this power and control dynamic that they're about to enter into.
Mm.
So I think it's just important in step one that as Black women that we really rally behind these young soldiers that come in, not just the older ones as well, but really get behind these young soldiers to help them understand healthy relationships and get them before before life hits them. Um, so I really want to advocate for the mentorship aspect of us as Black women and the continuing that mentorship throughout their career.
I love that, right? Because we focus a lot here, She Serves Sheroes, on the veteran community, but what you said just hit me like a ton of bricks, and we need to be hitting them as they're going in, before they're going in, recently entering, and right, creating this mentorship and space for safe space from the beginning. And like you said, just learning how to have healthy relationships, because a lot of women that are entering, they don't even know what that is yet.
No, because it's still a competitive service. Like regardless of the branch, you're competing with this person to get promoted. You're competing with and there's nothing wrong with competition that shouldn't involve personal attacks. That shouldn't involve the inability for once we take this uniform off that you are my sister and I can still help you. That shouldn't matter. The competitive nature of it, I think, is what keeps a lot of these relationships at bay. But when you've got somebody who is being targeted by a senior enlisted or another officer, and there is potential that this, and I use the word child because again, I'm older. These kids, my youngest is 22 and my
Listen,
oldest
I
is
was going to say, we have to come back to that father time.
yes. I have a 27-year-old So when I think about the demographic of, you know, these young people that are being, assaulted, I go back to that. Okay, set aside the competitiveness. There's someone's life that's about to be changed, and it could be affected by your relationship, your closeness. Because if you
Mm,
know that person, if that is your sister, and you know that, and you recognize these grooming behaviors, and you recognize what this, sergeant major, I'm pick on sergeant majors because they're always my target of aggression. I'm going after the sergeant majors every time. But if you know that you have this sergeant major who's known to do stuff like that, and that's your, regardless if she's same rank as you, hey sis, like you need to watch out for him. So that mentorship is so important early on,
yeah.
and that we understand and recognize the signs of grooming and those behaviors that can keep us from being the victims of assault and harassment.
Yes.
Embolden us, empower. I want to say embolden, but empower us as a
Yeah,
collective to stand up for each other.
absolutely. So again, I'm going to challenge everyone in the community, anyone that hears this, to take that and reflect on it and see how we can get involved more in the young coming up next women, in the military, going in the military. If you're a veteran that's doing veteran work in the community, we should also be, just like how we talk about in every aspect, reaching forward and reaching back, we should definitely be reaching back. And I will definitely take on that personal challenge, because I can tell you that that's been a blind spot. And what you're saying, it's before it happens, right? Preventative, not reactive.
We should be creating soldiers, not survivors.
Period. Yes, absolutely. So I thank you for just everything that you've shared, your transparency, for you also giving us an assignment
Yeah.
and reminding us of the work that needs to be done. And you said that Father Time is chasing you, but you're staying away from it. What are these secrets? Because a 31 where? And talking about you have a 27-year-old. I'm like, listen, now we have to know that.
Yeah, all three of my children decided to stay in Texas. My longest duty station, so they grew up military kids, and I put some roots down in Texas, and they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna stay here." So they kind of fell in love with. But yes, I have a 22-year-old who is currently at my alma mater at UT Arlington, finishing up her degree.
Awesome.
This year, she'll be graduating. I have a 25-year-old who is going to be a firefighter in Austin, Texas. And then my 27-year-old who is an entrepreneur and is a web developer. So he does websites and marketing and stuff like that. So yeah, he does that in Austin, Texas. So yeah, those are my babies.
Yes, that is awesome. Well, we just appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
You are so beautiful.
I
And
appreciate it. It's water. Listen, I'm like, my dad is 91 years old, and I
okay,
think I credit a lot of that. I don't take credit for any of this. This is all God given. But honestly, drinking water, my dad is like, drink water and mind your business. If it if it don't involve you, it don't involve you.
there you go. So again, if you want to look at 19 when you have a 27, 25, and 22-year-old, drink water and mind your business.
Yeah, that's literally my mantra. Like I said, if it don't evolve you, it don't involve you. So if it's not going to help you or somebody next to you, I kind of like took my own little Tabitha Brown thing, that whole thing she say where if you can't have a good day, don't dare go mess up somebody
Somebody
else's.
else says yes.
Yes. That's
If
my
it
own
don't
mantra.
evolve you, it don't involve you. That is a good one. That is a great. And yes, we love Tab. I mean, we just love Sister Tabitha.
I do. I love her. I've been loving her for a minute, but yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm a runner. I haven't found too many of my veterans that want to run with me. Like, why?
Yeah.
It's therapy for me. So I will say running is therapy. I do the Army 10 miler every year. I'll be doing it again next year. Matter of fact, it comes out tomorrow. So I'll be registered for the Army 10 miler. And I'm doing my first marathon this year. So
Congratulations. We look forward to staying connected with everything that you're doing, just Dr. D on your own, and everything that you're doing with Glass Soldier. We look forward to hearing from you in the She Surf, She Rose community. And, we're trying to hear about the retreat. We want to come out and fellowship with you as well. I had the
I
opportunity
can
to do
wait.
a Project Odyssey with Wounded Warrior Project, and it was wonderful for me. It was a time that I really needed it, and it was amazing for me. So we too at She Surf Sheroes, we're looking at that in the future, and we're definitely trying to, go out, and you can't help others if you're not helping yourself. And for us, it's important to constantly feed, you know.
Absolutely. And we could all use the help. So I'm grateful for you. Just I'm honored that you allow me to share this platform with you. So thank you.
Thank you. So we'll see you around. Is there anything else you want to share before we part ways? And just once again, if you could remind everyone how to contact you and where to look for Glass Soldier at.
Absolutely. So our website is glasssoldier.org. My email is my first name, Diandra, Diandra at glasssoldier.org. And yeah, I think that's just it. Just want to leave people with the same thing that I leave everyone with. Time is a finite resource. So spend it wisely because you can't get it back. So,
Thank you, Dr. D. We will see you around, and we just send all blessings to you. Keep
thank
up the good work.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.